After a terrible start to the 2022 season, which had many people, myself included, thinking it was time for the Raptors to rebuild, they really turned it around and have made it all the way to the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference, only a few spots back of being in the top 4 because of how close the schedule is. And while it's not guaranteed they will make the playoffs as they are currently in the play-in tournament, and they could potentially fall all the way out of that with how tough the Eastern Conference has been, my money is on Toronto making it as a lower seed in the East for this playoff run, and my question for you all is how good can this team be in the first round? How dangerous are they to another contending team? Do they really have the talent to give some of the best teams in the East a run for their money, or are they doomed to just be a forgettable first-round exit despite their improved play throughout the majority of the season? The Raptors are currently the 7th seed in the East with a 32-25 record. They have the 9th best offense and 13th best defense in the league with the number 12 overall net rating, and when you consider how bad they were in the first month of the season, you can argue that they should be top 10 in net rating just considering their play from the last 2 months or so. This team has looked really good lately, and it really was an impressive turnaround because, man, people seem to have forgotten already, but the first 3 or 4 weeks of basketball, this team sucked. They were at the bottom of the East, and they really came back. They got it together. One of the big reasons why is Fred VanVleet, who after a pretty average start to the season has really been playing like an all-star. He deservingly made the All-Star game this year with averages of 22 points, 7 assists, and 2 steals, shooting 42% from the field and 40% from 3 on 10 attempts a game. The man has been an absolute sniper. He's been incredibly difficult to guard. If you see him, he looks like a poor man's Steph Curry, and I mean Steph Curry on a good season. Steph Curry how he played in the All-Star game, not Steph Curry how he's been playing since the new year began, alright? Fred VanVleet has been incredible. His defense is better than it's ever been before. His offense is obviously the best on the team, and that's not taking anything away from some of these other guys. Pascal Siakam has also looked at like a borderline all-star level player this year. 22 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal, and a block. He provides solid defense. He's very efficient, shooting 50% from the field. 35% from 3 is nothing to write home about, but it's not so bad that you can just leave him wide open on every 3-pointer either. You do have to consider him as a threat. He's great at attacking the rim. He still does his Pascal Siakam thing, not a superstar by any means, but a very good second option on offense. He actually leads the team in scoring, but let's be real, Fred VanVleet is the more dangerous offensive player. I'm just saying. Gary Trent Jr. is having a breakout season of his own. The Blazers continue to look like their front office is a bunch of bumbling morons who don't know what they're doing. I cannot believe, I thought at the time, trading Norman Powell for Gary Trent Jr. was a bad trade, and in hindsight, it actually looks even worse. This dude has been averaging 19 points this season, with 40% shooting from 3, 8 attempts a game. He's also a pretty darn good defender, and over the last few weeks, he's been even better. The man has been on fire in the month of February. He had several 30-point games, including, I believe, multiple 40-point ones. He has just looked ridiculous. This big three for this team on offense is a very good group of players, and the rest of their starting 5 is pretty solid too. OG Anunoby, we all know he's a fantastic defender. He's averaging 18 points a game. His offensive efficiency has not been as good as you may expect, but because of that, I think we can count on him to perform a little bit better as the season goes on. He's only shooting 35% from 3, but we know that this dude is a legitimate great 3-and-D player, and I expect him to get those percentages up by the NBA playoffs. And last, you've got Scotty Barnes. 20 years old, he was leading the Rookie of the Year race at the start of the season, and I think the fact that his name has completely fallen out of contention is unfair. He is averaging 14 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, and a block in his rookie season, 47% from the field, not much of a three-point shooter, only 31% from three, and only 73% from the free throw line. But if he can improve in those areas, this dude could legitimately be a future star. He's already a very good player around the rim and not too bad in the mid-range. He's a very good defensive player as well. This kid has great potential. He was my Rookie of the Year pick for a reason, and even though it's not looking like he's going to win it anymore, he should still be considered up there in terms of talent with the other guys at the top like Evan Mobley and Cade Cunningham. He is a fantastic young player. To go along with this great starting five, you have, in my opinion, the best coach in the NBA right now, Nick Nurse. This dude is so creative. He does such a good job. I really think he's an underrated coach. I truly believe he has been the best coach in the league since 2019. He does not get the respect he deserves. This dude is an incredible basketball mind. So, great coach, great starting five. They play offense, they play defense. This sounds like a pretty dangerous team, right? Could the Raptors potentially make some kind of playoff run? Like, not even necessarily making the finals, but do they have a chance to make it to the second round? At this point, it sounds like they do, right? Well, there are two big issues with Toronto, and that is shooting and depth. First, let's talk about the depth, because the shooting is, a part of it. When you look at this team's depth, they have a great starting five. All five dudes are legitimate starting caliber players, pretty darn good ones. However, their bench sucks. Like, straight up, this team's bench is awful. There are only two players who I would legitimately consider, good usable bench players are Chris Boucher and Precious Achiuwa, and neither of these guys are Sixth Man of the Year candidates. They are both dudes who would be pretty solid rounding out your bench as like the 8th or 9th dude. Instead, they are expected to be the 6th and 7th dude on this team, and they just don't do a good enough job. The massive scoring drop-off, efficiency drop-off, really everything drop-off between the starting five and the players that come off of this bench is ridiculous. There's a reason that the Toronto Raptors starting five leads the league in minutes, including Fred VanVleet, who leads the league in minutes as an individual player. Nick Nurse does not have a choice but to play these dudes an insane amount of time because the bench is not good. Chris Boucher, after seeming like some kind of breakout year a few years ago, has not been good this season. His defense has been bad. His offense has not been good either. He's just not doing his thing. And Precious Achiuwa is a nice player off the bench, but his efficiency is just not there. For a dude who can't really shoot in any way, like he's really only good under the rim, he's not that good of a rim player either. I don't know if he's just too small or not skilled enough or what, but while I think he still has potential, he has certainly not been the man who the Raptors need him to be this season. Goran Dragic could have helped this problem, but he refused to play because he was a big baby, didn't want to play in Toronto, and as a result, this team has no bench depth whatsoever. They have 5 very good players in the starting lineup and no bench whatsoever. And even though the lineup shortened in the playoffs, starters get more minutes, yada yada yada, this team is going to be killed in the minutes where their starters are not on the floor. They don't have anyone who can create their own shot with any kind of consistency off the bench. They don't have anyone who can shoot a 3. They don't have anyone who really does anything well off of this bench. They really don't. Chris Boucher should not be your best bench player. That is not a good sign with how he has been playing this season. And when we talk about shooting, the other big reason with this team, you might think they have good shooters, because I mentioned at first that Fred VanVleet and Gary Trent Jr. have been amazing from 3 this season. 40% from 3 on 10 attempts and 8 attempts respectively. Those are 2 great shooters, right? And they are. But part of the reason that it is so huge that those 2 dudes have been shooting so well is because nobody else on this team is a good 3-point shooter. Pascal Siakam is slightly below league average. OG Anunoby as well, even though I do believe he will get it together. He is a better 3-point shooter than his percentages have shown. He still hasn't been shooting up to his standards, and while I think he's going to improve a little, I can't guarantee he's going to go back to being the 40% 3-point shooter we need him to be. And by we, I mean Toronto Raptors fans. I'm not actually one of them, but you know what I mean. Scotty Barnes cannot hit a three, Chris Boucher, Precious Achiuwa, Tremont Waters, Kem Birch, none of these dudes are three-point shooting players. Nobody off of this team's bench. They have two good three-point shooters in Van Fleet and Gary Trent Jr. They have one currently average, I would say slightly above average three-point shooter in OG Anunoby, and no one else on this roster can hit a three to save their lives. So when you get to the playoffs, the entire bench is unplayable, and you only have to worry about spacing from three dudes, maybe only two, depending on how OG Anunoby plays. You can leave Pascal Siakam open from the three to an extent. If you're going to get beaten by him shooting threes, that's just how you're going to lose. Scotty Barnes is not a threat in that area. I think this team could have some serious issues, alright? And when it comes to the defense, this is something very small, but they are not a very big team. They play incredibly smart defense, and because of that, I don't consider this a big issue for them, but they do not have a true center/rim protector. So when they play Joel Embiid, when they play Giannis, I do worry about how this team's size is going to match up with them. Man, I really do feel bad, Raptors fans, because I started this video off real positive, and there is a lot to be positive about with this team. When you're looking for the future, they've got Scotty Barnes, future All-Star. OG Anunoby is going to keep getting better. Fred VanVleet and Pascal Siakam are probably going to keep getting better. Gary Trent Jr., this is a very young team. Alright, they have a lot of room for improvement. They do have a great coach. They've got a great group of defenders. They've got a lot of guys who can improve. One day, a few years from now, this could be a legitimate playoff threat. But when we are talking about the 2022 playoffs, I gotta be honest, I see it much more likely that this team gets swept or loses in 5 in the first round than I see them making the second round and making any kind of noise for themselves in this postseason. The Raptors have put on a very impressive run. After the first month of the regular season, they have outperformed people's expectations. But at the end of the day, I don't think this is a truly dangerous playoff team. They need some more bench depth, they need some more shooting, they need a little bit more time to become that team once again.